You know when you pop into a Japanese convenience store, like
Yeah.
a 7-Eleven or Family Mart, Lawson, for a quick snack or something,
Yeah. Happens all the time.
it feels like more often than not now, the person behind the counter isn't, well, a native Japanese speaker.
Right.
It makes you a bit curious, doesn't it? Like, what's the story there? It's such a common thing now.
It really is. And that's exactly what we're digging into in this deep dive. We've pulled together the latest info, news articles, industry data, expert takes, all pretty current as of, say, May 2025,
Okay.
to really get under the hood of why there are so many foreign workers in these convenience.
Konbini, right? The convenience stores.
Exactly. We want to go beyond just, noticing it and give you a clear picture of what's actually driving this.
Yeah, because you do notice it, and then
Yeah.
you think, wow, these places are everywhere, and they're open, like 24/7.
Precisely. And the big picture here, the backdrop, is really Japan's demographic situation.
Mm.
You've got the declining birth rate, the aging population. It's causing a really significant squeeze on the labor force.
Right. Fewer younger people entering the workforce.
Exactly. If you look at the projections, like from the National Institute of Population and Social Security Research, they figure the workforce could drop from about, 76 million in 2020
Okay.
down to maybe 44 million by 2070.
Wow, that's a huge drop.
It's massive. And yeah, when you think about convenience stores needing staff around the clock, that constant demand, well, it's hitting that shrinking workforce hard,
Makes sense. They must really feel that pressure.
no doubt. And the numbers, they kind of back this up. As of October 2024, Japan had something like 2.3 million foreign workers overall,
Okay.
which was up like 12.4%. So a big jump. And while that's across all industries, convenience stores are definitely a big part of that trend.
Right. Can you give us some specifics, like for the convenience stores themselves, just to get a feel for the scale?
Sure. So by May 2024, so about a year ago now, there were over 80,000 foreign nationals working part-time just in the big three chains.
The big three being 7-Eleven, Lawson, Family Mart.
Exactly. And that 80,000 figure, that's about 10% of all their part-timers.
10%? Wow.
Yeah. And breaking it down, 7-Eleven had roughly 40,000. Lawson was around 24,000. Actually saw a confirmation of that number on X just this month, May 7th.
Okay.
And Family Mart was somewhere around 18,000.
Those are really significant numbers. And it's not just like evenly spread out, is it? I think I remember reading something about one area in Tokyo where it was, well, really concentrated.
You're absolutely right. There was this report back in January 2024 looking at the Akasaka area in Tokyo.
Uh-huh.
And get this, across 7-Eleven stores there, 90%, 90 of the staff were foreign nationals.
90%. Seriously.
Yeah, 54 out of 60 employees. It just shows how concentrated it can be in certain spots.
Mm,
Really brings it home.
yeah, that paints a picture. And just for context, how many konbinis are there overall in Japan, roughly?
The estimate as of January this year, 2025, is around 56,749 stores.
Okay. Lots of stores.
Yeah. And if you figure maybe 15 employees per store on average, you're talking about a total workforce of maybe 850,000 people.
Right.
So that 80,000 players in the big chains, it's a noticeable slice and it's growing.
Okay, so demographics, the 247 need, it creates this gap. But why aren't more Japanese workers filling these specific roles? That feels like the first big reason we need to unpack.
Exactly. That's reason number one.
Yeah.
The labor shortage meeting Japanese employment trends within this specific industry.
Okay.
There's a real difficulty, apparently, in filling those shifts that people don't really want. Late nights, early mornings.
Yeah, the graveyard shift.
Right. And a lot of younger Japanese workers, they tend to aim for jobs with, well, maybe better pay, more stable conditions, predictability.
That makes sense. Those overnight shifts are tough. And didn't that X post you mentioned touch on this too?
It did.
Yeah.
It kind of made the point that maybe people, even living in Tokyo, don't fully realize how much convenience stores, and restaurants too, rely on foreign workers just to keep the doors open.
Hmm.
It really highlights how hard it can be to find Japanese staff for these particular roles.
And it's not just social media chatter, right? We've got views from inside the industry.
I do. There was this Senkai article where a store manager basically said, point blank, we can't cover the shifts unless we rely on foreigners.
Wow.
Yeah. They mentioned high turnover among Japanese staff and specifically people just not wanting to do the night shifts. That's why they need foreign workers.
Okay, so the demand is high, the domestic supply for those specific shifts is low. That naturally points towards immigration policies, right? Which is another huge piece of this puzzle.
Absolutely. Reason number two, immigration policy and the visa system. And what's interesting is how Japan's policy, which used to be pretty tight,
Right, famously so.
has been gradually, relaxing or adapting, really,
Yeah.
specifically to deal with these labor shortages.
How's
Well, they brought in or expanded certain visa types, like the specified skills visa, that's a big one, and the technical or humanities specialist visa. These make it easier for people to come and work.
Okay.
And then there's the whole situation with international students.
Yeah.
They're allowed to work part-time, right? Up to 28 hours a week.
Ah, okay. The 28-hour rule.
Exactly. And think about convenience stores, those flexible shift times.
Mm.
They're actually pretty appealing for students juggling classes and needing some income.
Yeah, you could fit that around a university schedule, I guess.
Totally. Plus, and this came up in a Kyoto news piece, it's a great way for these students to actually improve their Japanese.
Oh, right. Constant interaction.
Exactly. Talking to customers, coworkers. It's real-world practice, day in, day out.
So it's kind of a win-win in some ways. Students get money and language skills, stores get needed staff. Okay, so beyond government policy and individual student needs, what about the companies, the big chains? Are they playing a role? It's like reason 3.
Definitely reason 3. Corporate strategies and also community networks. The big chains aren't just passively waiting.
No.
No, they're actively recruiting foreign workers. International students are a huge focus. They actually set up partnerships with universities overseas.
Really? Like where?
Countries like Vietnam, China,
Yep.
places where they know there are students interested in coming to Japan.
That's quite proactive. I think I read something about 7-Eleven having a specific program.
You probably did. They
Yeah.
call it 7 Global Linkage. And the stated goal is interesting, realizing a multicultural society through hiring foreign nationals.
So it's framed quite broadly.
Yeah. And we already mentioned Lawson's, 24,000 foreign workers. These big companies, they generally provide training, support systems to help people get started.
Okay. And you mentioned community networks too. What's that about?
Well, it's not just formal recruitment. There's this, organic thing that happens.
Hmm.
A foreign worker gets a job at a store, and then they tell their friends, maybe people from back home, hey, they're hiring here. So you get friends bringing in friends.
Ah, word of mouth.
Exactly. And sometimes you end up with several people from the same country working in the same store.
Right.
The Sankai article mentioned this too, people using social media to invite friends from their home country to come work together. Creates a sort of support system.
That makes a lot of sense, like building a little community at work. Okay, let's talk about the money side, the economics. Why are these jobs attractive from the worker's perspective? Reason 4.
Reason 4, economic factors and also customer service angles. For many foreign workers, especially students, it's pretty straightforward. They need the income.
Right. Living expenses in Japan aren't cheap.
Not at all. So while the wages might not be super high compared to other jobs, maybe.
Yeah, they're often minimum wage or close to it, right?
Often, yeah. But the flexible hours we talked about and that chance to practice Japanese, those are big draws that offset the wage level for many people.
Okay, so it's a package deal,
Yeah.
sort of.
Kind of. And then there's the flip side. The benefit to the store, especially in tourist areas.
Ah, yeah.
Think about it. If you have staff who can speak Chinese or Korean or English in an area with lots of tourists from those places, that's a huge plus for customer service.
Definitely. Makes people feel more comfortable.
Totally. That Kyoto news article had a great example from Ginza in Tokyo. High-end shopping, lots of tourists.
Right.
Apparently, 80% of the staff at one Family Mart, there were foreign nationals.
Mm-hmm.
And their ability to talk to Chinese tourists directly,
Yeah.
big boost in customer satisfaction.
80%. Wow.
Yeah.
I can see how that would be a major advantage in a place like Ginza.
So yeah, in those cases, it really is a win-win. Okay, so finally, let's zoom out a bit, look at the bigger industry trends and maybe what's coming next.
Okay, the future outlook.
Well, the trend seems pretty clear. The whole wholesale and retail sector, which includes convenience stores, saw a 13.2% increase in foreign workers recently.
13% increase, okay.
Yeah. And that's partly driven by tourism bouncing back after, the pandemic slowdowns, but also just the ongoing labor shortage. It's not going away.
Right.
And convenience stores, along with sectors like construction and healthcare welfare, they're really becoming quite reliant on foreign labor.
And the factors driving the demographics, the labor shortage, they're not exactly reversing, are they?
No, not anytime soon.
Yeah.
The general expectation is that Japan's domestic market will keep shrinking population-wise, and the labor crunch will likely get worse, not better.
So the role of foreign workers becomes even more essential.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Critical even for keeping these kinds of services running smoothly in the long term.
So it feels like this trend is baked in now and maybe even set to grow?
That's certainly what the signs point to. The government seems to be moving towards making it easier, expanding things like the specified skills visas, offering more support for international students finding jobs.
Okay.
It all suggests that convenience stores and other sectors, too, will continue to rely on and probably increase their reliance on foreign workers.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, this deep dive really shows it's not just one thing, is it? It's this whole complex mix.
Exactly.
You've got Japan's big demographic shifts the aging population, fewer workers, then the nature of convenience store work itself, especially those tough shifts.
Right.
Then you layer on the changes in immigration policy, the visas opening up, plus the companies actively recruiting and these community networks forming.
And the economic drivers for the workers, the language learning, the customer service benefits for the stores.
Yeah, it all connects. And that number, over 80,000 foreign workers just in the top three chains back in May 2024, feels like that's only going to climb.
All indications point that way, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just something you notice anymore. It really reflects a fundamental shift happening in Japan's workforce and, well, its society. As we see it right now, May 10th, 2025.
It really does. Gives you a lot to think about. Considering all these trends we've discussed, and it makes you wonder, what are the longer-term impacts socially, economically of relying more and more on foreign workers for these really essential everyday services like convenience stores here in Japan? Definitely something to keep mulling over.